inside my head is sad to fade away. To hear you quite slowly distracts my head. It's a girl in the middle of the nothingness. And you tell me why, so I'll tell me true. And I spent 3 days explaining to you. And you disappear in front of my eyes. So that's why I remember I'm under lies. And I really miss the sunshine. Sunshine, my locals. And I really miss the sunshine, baby. Oh yeah. And I really miss the sunshine, my locals. And I really miss the sunshine, baby. Oh yeah. Tell me why, you tell me why, so I'll tell the truth. And I spent 3 days explaining with you. And you disappear in front of my eyes. So that's why I remember I'm alive. You tell me why, so I'll tell the truth. And I spent 3 days explaining with you. And you disappear. And I really miss the sunshine, baby. And I really miss the sunshine, baby. Oh yeah. And I really miss the sunshine, baby.
Well, hey there, everyone. How you guys doing today, tonight, this morning, wherever it is, time-wise, where you guys are? Hi, yeah, it's Christy, and I doing a very spontaneous hangout, as you guys can see. So a little bit of background, and then we'll jump right into the show. As you guys might know, if you follow the happy hour, Kevin and I had talked about bringing Carl on to talk about his campaign, because I had so many questions for him, and so did Kevin. But when and Kevin reached out because Carl talks to him and I don't talk to Carl. He asked him on the show, and Carl said yes, and it sort of time went by, and he asked him again, and Carl said yes, but sort of put him off, wouldn't give him a date or anything in particular. And then I was traveling for work, and I got a message from Kevin. He had had a conversation with Carl, and Carl had agreed to appear, but he didn't want to do it with me. That was the condition, that he didn't want to face me. Carl's afraid of me. This is I just think this is hilarious and hasn't really gotten talked about. I don't think enough. Someone on Twitter did send me a little clip. I haven't seen this show in its entirety yet, but I did see some choice clips that people had sent along the way. And I've been holding off watching this because I had the idea to do it live. So this is just lazy YouTubing. I'm going to turn my volume up a little bit. For some reason, my sound feels a little quiet. I might even adjust my filter. So do I sound quiet in the chat? Anyway, so this I'll just do my output gains up a little bit, see if that helps. Anyway, so yeah, I've been holding off watching this, and I thought to do it yesterday, but I was too tired, so I'm going to do it today. It's 2 hours and 2.5 hours long. Holy crap. I don't know that I'm going to do the whole thing. If you guys have timestamps you want to throw in the chat, you can go ahead and do that, but I don't know if I'm going to do the full 2.5 hours. We'll have to see how this goes. Maybe I'll do it in 2 parts. Anyway, yeah, let's just get going. Carl was afraid of talking to me, so he agreed to talk to Kevin alone, but yeah, on those conditions, and Kevin had him on. That's exactly what I know about this, and basically we're gonna get going. Oh wait, the desktop audio is muted.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Ooh, Kevin is loud. Okay, that's better.
Thank you for asking.
Okay, I see that they're evened out now.
This one's just going to be a sort of chill out thing where I interact with the audience a little bit and take some questions and just generally
Okay.
chat. I was in the mood to chat, And I thought I can't be
So
bothered doing
when
like a
does
proper
Carl
thing.
show up?
So I'm just.
Let's go
Well,
ahead.
I won't reveal. But so yeah, he contacted me the other day. That's all I'll say.
Oh, you must be talking about Carl.
A pirate and a terrorist and all this awful shit.
There he is.
Because he's trying
Okay.
to roll up his base because that's
All
what
right.
fascists do.
So we're going to skip ahead to minute 21:30, where it looks like.
Which in many respects is funny. If Carl's fans are having to sit through me saying no words, good.
So I don't know all of this, like how the communications happened. I'm just trying to get to the part where Carl and Kevin start talking.
Well, there we go. Right, so hopefully my laptop now. There we go, straight away. Boom.
All right, he's still. I see Carl there, so that must be when he joins in. People in the chat have anything you want to contribute?
He's been sent the link. We'll see what happens. Maybe he turns up.
Turns up late.
Maybe he's got clothes on.
Kevin. All right, while Kevin is waiting, one thing I will say is I know that.
Anyway, sorry, yeah. Well, whilst we're waiting for that.
Yeah, turn him down a bit. Kevin and I have very different interview styles, and I know that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There he is. Kevin gets some criticism for, say, being too soft or having these guys on or being too chummy with them. And certainly that's not the approach I would take, but that's also why they don't talk to me. Because I would challenge them on their BS, and I increasingly am relying on using Google to fact check stuff live. I think that's a really good way to deal with these guys, is to not just pretend you're in a bar with no access to the internet. It's to actually look things up and ask for links and to look at the original sources. And so Kevin's approach is different from mine. And so I will see what I would say maybe to Carl in these situations. So getting on with it now. Let's get back into it. I'm going to turn them back up a bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Carl.
Kevin.
Oh, what's going on with the sound?
Do any Jaworski style interview.
Okay, I'm skipping ahead.
I don't think it's a statement of superiority.
All right.
What's an American, right?
Oh, God.
Kev, is channel back monetized? What's the? Oh, in terms of the monetization, I've reapplied.
I
didn't actually take.
Does he not know Carl
down.
is in the chat?
Although YouTube obviously took those.
Okay, obviously I've skipped ahead. So I don't know.
You can hear Carl.
Can you not hear me?
Hello, Carl.
What was going on with Kevin's?
My own stream back. Apologies. Yes. How
are you? He needs to listen to his own sound. Okay.
Rock climbing, and I haven't been able to do it for 3 months, and so my arms are all weak and wobbly.
Oh, that's a
cool. So
gross image of Carl's wobbly arms.
What did you want to talk about?
Hanging off a rock.
No, just politics, man. I'm interested to get your take on a few things.
Go on then.
So go back to your own countries, right? That's horribly racist, isn't it?
Yes.
Obviously, yes, because they're not born in other countries.
But doesn't that just mean it's inaccurate? Why is it racist?
All right. Holy cow. Go back to where you came from. God, Carl doesn't even understand American politics, and he pretends to speak on it like he knows. If you know anything about American history, the whole racist phrase "go back to Africa" has been changed throughout time to go back. After civil rights, when there was integration, they would shout, "Go back to your neighborhood, go back to where you came from. You don't belong in white spaces." So this is what it's tapping into. The idea that people of color are somehow alien to normal American life, and if they don't belong. And this is what's also dangerous before I go on. Trump is extending that idea to not merely saying you are not a white person, therefore you don't belong on these lands that we stole from the native population. Right? Let's just not forget that little piece of irony about going back to where you came from in terms of white Europeans. But Trump is now basically extending it to, and Lindsey Graham reinforced this when he said, agreed that if these congresswomen agreed with Trump, he wouldn't be attacking them. So the problem isn't that she's, from Somalia originally. The problem is that she disagrees with Trump's notion of America. And I saw something on Twitter about if Muslims walk around wearing MAGA hats, they'll be okay. They'll be safe from harassment or attack if they just put on their MAGA hats. because it's about conformity to white supremacist America. If you conform to the idea of a white supremacist America, well, then you're an ally, right? So you can hang around because you're not going to be a threat to the system. And now it's not, so it's extended in order to include white liberals, the minority of whites who actually vote for the Democrats. Because we are, in that case, you know, when it comes to the Democratic coalition, we're a minority population. We're liberal, but I mean left. Okay, not liberal in the sort of centrist term, but a liberal conservative left-right scale. Left white Democrats are a minority of whites. And they want to alienate us too and make us as un-American by association of our ideology as they want to judge people who are not white and make them alien. So the whole go back thing is about treating people like they don't belong on equal footing with white American conservative Christian men. That's why it's racist. And that's what I would have said in the show. And this is why Carl is afraid of me. Oh, Mithril, you're not late at all. I'm just really lazy and doing a very last minute stream. Hello to Kevin Logan in the chat. How are you doing? Other people? Yeah, we're just doing a watch through of the show. And yeah, so I'm just venting at Carl via sort of vicariously through Kevin's hangout because Carl is afraid of me. He won't face me. He won't be willing to have me challenge him like this in person. So we'll hit play.
Well, because he's obviously saying that because they're like not white.
Maybe it's because they're not American.
They're all American citizens. You idiot. You racist idiot. You ignorant, racist, white supremacist tool. Carl, stop talking. Man.
But they are American.
Well, yeah, then we come into the question of what's an American, right?
Oh, what, now it's a purity test based on ideology? Is that not what I just described about if you wear a MAGA hat and you're a Muslim woman with a hijab, but you've got a MAGA hat on, you'll be okay? Because then you're an ally to the white supremacist movement? Ah! Carl, you are basically, yeah, it's like, this conversation alone is enough to say Carl is an advocate for the alt-right, for white supremacies. That this is it. If he doesn't understand these points, and he's making these talking points anyway, he is helping their discourse. He is trying to legitimize their perspective. He's pro-fascist.
Well, I mean, I thought you were a civic nationalist, weren't you?
Well, I am a civic nationalist.
So being born within the geographical parameters of America, as all of the people that were talked about were, makes them American.
Yeah, but I think there might be something more to it than that.
What? That's it. If you are legally an American citizen, you haven't like fake passport or something. That's it. That's all that's the only thing required to enjoy all of the rights and the benefits of American citizenship. People who become American citizens are automatically entitled to the right of native-born Americans or Americans born on soil, like John McCain was on a military base. And they talk about the phrase native-born Americans, right? An American is an American is an American. And you can be a communist, you can be a fascist and be an American, but it's the citizenship alone. No poll taxes, no reading tests, nothing for your rights. You're entitled to them. Everyone is. God, he's a fascist.
As a social construct of American.
No, you idiot! There is no social construct of American. It is a mutable term. That is the whole point, like more than any other country in the world, because white Europeans came over and invaded and stole a land, and through germ warfare, although they weren't aware of it, they brought diseases that wiped out most of the population, and then through warfare and advanced technology committed a genocide in order to push people back into reservations eventually, and stole all the resources. And you want to say that you get to construct the notion of America based on that white slavery-based system that limited rights to white propertied men until we had to make amendments to include more people? No, that is not, I see Kevin writing penis in the chat, that is not the social construct of America. Everyone who is an American citizen who looks in the mirror sees a social construct of an American. And if you don't acknowledge and recognize that, then you are not actually valuing or practicing what the American system has been as a nation of immigrants. Damn, Carl. Damn, you're a white supremacist.
I think that's what he's talking about.
I don't think he is talking about that at all. I think he's literally saying because they were black, he thought they were foreign, therefore they should fuck off. Although one thing I will say he has got right is that...
Did he just say they're
okay,
not
of
wrong?
colour, let's say them.
Okay.
Not non-white.
Right.
Yeah.
But one thing he did have right was that the country they come from does have an absolutely awful government.
Yeah, checkmate, Drumpf. He stumbled into that one.
Yeah.
But,
He did.
yeah, what I find really interesting though is I don't think it is actually racist. I just think it's stupid.
All right, so this is his way of making it benign, right? Oh, hey, thanks, Ecom. I appreciate the $5 contribution. Woohoo! You get a hug. I don't know, you can't see me because I'm not on camera, but like, lean in. I'm gonna. Oh, thanks so much, e-hug. And you're right. As long as you wear a MAGA hat and bend the knee to Mad King Donnie, you're an American. This is anti-First Amendment free speech out the window. Absolutely. That's it. You know, this is why it's ridiculous to sort of use individuals within a far-right or alt-right space as saying, oh, they can't be racist because. It's about conformity to the ideology of white supremacy. And if you're willing to acknowledge that and work for that or tolerate that or back it up or put your face to it, then of course you're useful to advancing that, you know, fascism. Absolutely. And the false, you know, the sort of making, oh, you have the right, you know, to say anything, but if you say things we don't like, then we're going to ostracize you and tell you to leave the country. Yeah. All right.
So you support people who are stupid becoming president of America?
Well, can you name the one that hasn't been?
Yeah, Barack
I
Obama.
think Barack Obama was stupid.
He was a constitutional
He
lawyer.
may have disagreed with his policies, but he was not a stupid man.
Kind of neoliberal and a bit evil for my liking, to be honest.
Well, okay, but being stupid and holding policy positions you don't like are two completely different things. Carl, do you even know how words work? Do you even understand the meaning of words? Oh my, you're so dumb. Oh, you don't think clearly or precisely or rigorously. It's just whatever comes into your head that's sort of emotionally adjacent, and then it just spews out of your mouth. Ugh.
Well, you can say evil if you want to.
Yeah.
But you can't say stupid. I think anyone who's like Harvard Law, not professor, but like graduate or whatever, that's pretty badass.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like he's cleverer than me or you.
But that's the thing. Like I've been talking to a lot of people about this, and they've been like, "Oh, it's racist." And it's like, okay, why? So it just is. It's like
I don't believe that people said it just is. There are explanations out there. There are news stories that cover this. There are plenty of people I've seen on MSNBC explaining exactly what the history of this phrase has been in the African American community, in the Mexican community, and Latino community. But white people are never told this. I've never been told, go back to where I come from. That is why I can't say that I, can understand and personally how this is racist. I can observe other people's reaction to it and listen to their accounts. And I can learn about how they grow up with this. That 3-year-old kids, this is one of their first memories, is watching one of the newscasters or the commentators watching his mother react as a white man told his mother to go back to where she came from, to go back to India. Right? These are childhood experiences. Kids who are American citizens being told to go back to a country they don't even know about. And so no, Carl, I don't believe it. Sorry, this is going to take forever. I'm definitely not getting through 2.5 hours of this. Sorry, you guys, but this is ridiculous. Fear me, Carl. Fear me, because I will call you out to your face on this BS if you come into a hangout with me. So yeah, you better run. You better avoid me. You can't handle this, feminist.
Okay. I don't think it's a statement of superiority of the races.
Yes, it is because it implies that white Americans belong on a soil that they stole somehow more legitimately than the ancestors of the people they enslaved and brought over here against their will, held here against their will, denied them of their rights, the right to marry, the right to have any property, the right to an education, and systematically kept them down for generations. And then what, my family comes over in the late 1900s? And I'm more of an American than someone who came from generations of slavery? No, I am a new American. Most of the people who are, the people who are descendants of slaves are more long-term Americans, have been Americans longer than a lot of the people who came over in the 1800s and the 1900s. They've got seniority on us. So no, we don't get to tell them to go back. If anything, we should go in reverse chronological order. All right.
Well, no, it's not even necessarily a statement of superiority. It's that he assumed, I think, that because they weren't white, and I think there is one that was born like somewhere else, wasn't there?
Somalia.
Yeah, Ilhan
Somalia or something.
Omar
Yeah.
from Somalia, yeah.
And she was a
Yeah,
refugee.
And so he's just put 2 and 2 together and come up with 1 million, and assumed that the people of non-color like Ocasio-Cortez, who has, like, she's got quite a Hispanic surname, so maybe he thinks, oh, she's from Mexico or something, because that's the way it always works at Paramount.
Well,
Yeah, with
she's from a
racism.
Hispanic place.
Well, yeah, but it's not Mexico, you racist.
New York.
Yeah, she's from New
Is she
York.
Puerto Rico?
The high Hispanic
That's
population.
part of America still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's what makes it even funnier. Go back to where you came from and they're really offended, but it's like, but you live in America.
And not just that, but Trump is so illiterate in many respects, because
Carl just doesn't understand the historical context of the racism behind that, the phrase going all the way back to go back to Africa. He just wants to pretend that it's benign because Trump doesn't understand geography. And by making it benign, he wants to laugh it off so that we don't object to it and we don't see it as fascist, and we tolerate it. And we tolerate people being told to go back and go, oh, isn't it funny because they're Americans? No, that means people are enduring abuse based on their national origin, where their ancestry is from, not on their citizenship, right? They deserve protection. He just doesn't, he's just a defender of racism. He's an apologist for racism.
when he went to Puerto Rico, he literally said, I met with the president of Puerto Rico, not seeming to realise that he is the president of Puerto Rico.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, you stupid bastard. What the fuck?
Oh,
I mean,
so
I don't know
funny.
what the official title
I thought
of
this
that
guy
person
kept
is,
up with
governor
politics.
or something,
Yeah,
but
be governor.
he
or
wasn't the
something like that.
president, clearly.
Yeah.
Unless he's
That's
talking
really
in some
amusing.
sort of third person term about meeting himself.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Which you never know. He may well have been. Don't rule it out. But okay, so how do you feel about the Democrats? Like, who's your favorite?
See, once again, I love you, Kevin, but Carl always comes on and wants to set the agenda by asking a question and then tear apart your answer. And then when you try to, not you, but when anyone tries to pin him down, he responds by asking another question so that you can say something so he can tear you down. This is all he does, and I would call him on this bullshit because he really needs to talk about the humiliation of his own campaign. That hasn't been brought up yet. I hope it is. But, I mean, on the happy hour, there were a lot of questions I had about him. And in letting Carl set the agenda like this, it annoys me. So this is just technique differences. But,
Who's my favourite?
Yeah.
I think they need to elect the reanimated corpse of Vladimir Lenin.
Of course you do. But, like, unfortunately,
Definitely.
he actually is ineligible due to the fact that he wasn't born as an American citizen.
no, you can be in Congress.
The dead thing doesn't.
You just
seem
have to be
bother
a
you, though.
citizen, Carl.
No.
Again, you have to be
Okay.
native born
Okay,
to
yeah,
be
that's
president.
Technically true. That's
Yeah.
technically true. Okay, but in terms
It's
of
weird to say that the person has to be alive.
well, there has been a dead person elected to, was it Congress or something, wasn't there? In like
Checkmate.
one of these ridiculous seats. This was years ago now.
didn't even
There
know.
was a guy who died during the campaign, but because he was like a really strong Republican area, they still elected him, even though he was dead. I mean, they reran it straight away,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah,
because he was dead. But yeah.
I think his widow was
To be
appointed
fair, probably the best congressman they've ever had.
Senate, I think.
But yeah,
But I don't
This is-
remember.
I mean, I will actually get onto your question in a second, but this
Okay.
is the thing that always annoys me when people say how unpopular American politicians are. The whole Congress and Senate are, But if you ask about their individual congressperson or senator,
Yeah.
actually they're very popular.
Yeah, I saw that too. It's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
But
pretty
there you
common.
go. I mean, it's ultimately in a democracy, you get the politicians you deserve. Anyway,
Yeah, you do.
so who's my favourite in terms of who I want to win? I quite like Bernie, and I quite like Elizabeth Warren. In terms of who I think will win,
I'm just yawning. It's been a long day.
I can't believe Joe Biden's still leading the polls. He's weird,
Oh,
and I
you
don't
asked him
know who
about
his
that?
constituent is, and he's creepy as fuck. But he's clearly leading the polls, so that means something. And Kamala
Boomers.
Harris seems to have some support behind her and some money behind her, so she might win too. I don't know.
Yeah. Kamala's definitely the heir of Hillary, isn't she?
Yeah, what was someone saying? Oh, you asked him
Well,
about
she's from
the
same
Holocaust
or
denier.
similar political,
Oh, that's good.
Mm.
So.
stock, I suppose.
And Twisted Hippie also
But
says
before-
Kevin
before-
actually
before
honestly
you
answers the
said
question,
about,
unlike Carl. That's very true.
The fact that Bernie has pulled that party in a more progressive direction because Kamala Harris is being more progressive than you would think a person of her politics would be.
I wouldn't normally want to advise progressives, but I honestly think that the sort of Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris centrist types who are genuflecting towards progressivism are doing it cynically.
Who he thinks Warren is a centrist? Who is genuflecting to the left? Wow, does he not understand? Sorry, my mic is up really loud now, but wow, does he not understand politics? Carl, what centrist? Warren is centrist. You're just how do people pay you money for this? How do people pay you money for not understanding what you're talking about?
I wouldn't trust them if I were you guys.
Yeah, I'm under no illusions that the only actual progressive as such in the race is Bernie Sanders.
That's not true, Kevin.
But like I say, that it's still good that I think that. I mean, I dare say you would disagree with this, but I think it's good that he's shown the Democratic Party that actually there is a constituency for that in America, that there are votes there.
Well, if you're into that thing, I suppose you'd say that is a good thing. I find it interesting.
No, I was just.
No, so
go on.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I find it interesting how it's Biden leading the pack, because it seems to be everyone in the Democratic Party kind of hates him for being a dirty centrist.
Again, this just demonstrates how little Carl actually knows about politics. Carl, your opinions are worthless. I mean, you should just point that out when you start talking, that you don't know anything about American politics, because it's such a known fact for anyone who follows it. If you've followed a couple elections, name recognition is the first thing that voters will respond to. Why do when Arnold Schwarzenegger ran to be governor, he had immediate name recognition. Celebrities get immediate name recognition, and Biden has the highest name recognition, plus he was the vice president. So there's an entire constituency of people who are familiar with him and comfortable with him. And there's a lot of people who associate him with the Obama years, right? And so they kind of if they long to go back, that is the candidate they support. So he's just so basic. He's such a basic fail across the board on everything, Carl. Everything.
Well, it's not even a matter of him being a dirty centrist. It's troubling past in terms of school busing and stuff. And he's a creepy motherfucker.
Yes,
no one likes the touchiness. What are you doing?
I honestly, after he got called out for it and then did it again, it's like, Joe, just don't touch the children.
Really?
You
Carl, you're going to talk about this, and I hope Jeffrey Epstein gets brought up. I hope Trump gets brought up. I hope all the sexual assault stuff that's come out, recently, basically proving all of the charges, and yet the case being closed with the money laundering and Cohen. Did Barr put his thumb on the scale in closing that case? One must wonder. So where is this? You hypocrite! You freaking hypocrite!
Hell, Joe, just keep your fucking hands to yourself, you weirdo.
Yeah, tell that to Trump.
On that point, how do you feel about Trump's best friend Epstein getting?
Yes, thank you, Kevin.
Wow, he seems to have been a bigger friend of Bill Clinton.
No. There's not video. Oh my gosh! Wow. Hey, you want to talk about some flights? Yeah, you can talk about that, but there's not quotes from Clinton saying that he's a great guy who he knows well and likes beautiful women on the young side. At parties, a calendar girl party, 2 men and 27 women, and a VIP party. Trump on video grabbing a woman and smacking her on the bottom with Jeffrey Epstein at a party with him nearby. So Carl, again, with this false equivalence. He's just such a tool for the alt-right.
With follow him into the jail, to be honest, that's fine.
Yeah. I've actually learned a lot about how the sort of Republican establishment works recently, because I've been meeting some of them, and I find it very interesting that a few years...
I mean, he must mean the Trump fascists, the Trumpist fascists, like Bannon and whoever else it was that the sort of cockwomble that he was hanging around with, whose name escapes me. But so no, he's not talking about the Republicans, really. He's talking about Trump, the Trumpists, the fascist wing of the GOP here. So let's see what his perception of it is.
Years back, Trump called out Epstein for liking young girls.
No.
That was...
No. He admired him for it, and then later on, what happened was Epstein actually hit on a daughter, a teen daughter of a member of one of his clubs, invited her back to his house, and I think asked her to enrobe, and then she told her parents about it, and they told Trump about it, and then Trump kicked him out. But did he call the cops? Did he report this to the police at all? You know? No, he didn't.
It was really weird looking back on it in retrospect, because the way that the sort of upper echelons of the right wing, at least in America, works, but I imagine that the left wing works in much the same way, is it's all done by interpersonal relationships, right? So you meet someone through someone else, and they recommend, becoming friends effectively. They say, no, I know this person, I trust
Yes,
them.
Carl, we get the idea. We
You
understand
can
the
have a
concept of
trustworthy
networking.
relationship as well.
It's existed for a
That's
long
why you
time.
always see them, that's why you've got pictures of like Hillary Clinton kissing the KKK guy. I doubt that she's ever been interested in his politics or anything, but when you're in these sort of social circles, everyone has to be nice.
I have to say, you're on about Robert Byrd there, and I do have to interject. Because he obviously changed his politics enormously to the point where he was getting A grades from the NAACP.
Oh, really?
Because he'd obviously completely rejected his KKK past.
Right. Okay.
So he wasn't even on the right of the Democratic Party particularly.
But the point I'm trying to get at is that there are lots of pictures of people who are with each other at social functions but don't necessarily like one another.
Is this his way of excusing the number of times Trump has been pictured with Epstein? Because he partied with him a lot. And again, the Calendar Girl party. And at the Calendar Girl party, the guy organizing it told him that Epstein had issues with younger girls. Right? That's what he said anyway.
These social functions, it would be wholly inappropriate to act in any hostile way to these people. And the fact that Trump said, Jeffrey Epstein likes them young, sort of thing, that's the sort of thing that you'd expect him not to say if he was actually a friend of Jeffrey Epstein's.
What are you talking about? He said it in the middle of a compliment. Gosh, Carl, this is like you and the Heather Heyer thing. You're completely misrepresenting the facts in order to make Trump's comments look better.
So that's weird to me.
I mean,
I don't know what it means, obviously, but it's just one of those things that strikes me as being a strange thing.
It's not a strange thing because it was a compliment,
Trump's
Carl.
Nonsense about walking backstage.
Read the full article next time.
Was it the Little Miss Universe or whatever it's called, the kids one?
Teen.
There's some creepy shit
USA.
going on.
I don't know.
And the fact that he wants to bang his daughter. Pardon?
What did he say about the Miss Universe thing?
No, he was because I don't know if he still does, but he owned the Miss Universe thing.
Oh, did he?
The Little Miss Universe, the kids version of it. Apparently, he walked backstage into the dressing room area,
in the teen
really isn't
Miss USA
allowed or even really legal. But apparently, he did it. Pretty creepy, and his backing of Roy Moore, who
was also
fucking hell. The fact that that man got so close to being elected. Good God, America. Very cool.
So what you're saying?
Yeah, for the Republicans,
No.
Yeah.
No,
Not Pizzagate, but a child sex rings, and there's a lot of that. This is it. There are a lot of guys who are abusing young girls in the Republican Party.
Oh yeah, but
that's just true.
I do think there is. The actual Pizzagate thing.
Pizzagate goes beyond. Pizzagate goes beyond raping kids. They went about like sacrifice and then praying.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough, Kevin. I
I
won't say
don't know anything
Pizzagate,
about that, but there's definitely some kind of high level pedo ring going on.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Well,
Epstein had one.
Epstein's actually already been convicted of it, and Ann Coulter actually has been remarkably woke on this. She's been following this in great depth since 2005.
It doesn't surprise me at all that Carl would know Ann Coulter's views perfectly.
And she was just laying all of this out. And the thing is, she was doing it with the kind of expertise of someone who clearly has been paying some significant attention. I'll find the link and send it to you at some point because it was really fascinating. Because I didn't follow it that deeply.
Of course, you didn't.
There have been interviews with the butlers who've worked on his island and girls who have been involved in the trafficking, and essentially what he does is gets other women to groom these women. He pays them to get the girls as young as possible to come to his island, and whatever he does. And I think it's probably clear that there are other famous people involved, and I don't think it's a partisan thing either. I think it's both sides, which is pretty rough.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing for anyone, and I'm not going to necessarily say you did it but people who say, "Oh, well, Bill Clinton did it," I don't care. I don't care who did it. They all need to go to jail.
Anyone
forever.
Caught in that.
I don't give a fuck what party they're from or whether I like their movies or their fucking music. They need to go to prison.
But I will say that if anyone was involved going to parties, touching a child, go to jail. Go to jail. But I also think that there is a desire on the part of Republicans to find anybody who on the left who was ever associated with him and any social way. So I have to say that in terms of trying to pull out Bill Clinton and treat him as an equivalent to Trump, when Trump was pictured with him, partied with him, and my understanding is there were there were flights and planes. That's a little bit different from partying with somebody. So to put those two in the same sentence, I object to that. But again, that doesn't mean that because someone's on the left, I don't think that they were involved. I think anyone who was involved and knew about it, aided it, didn't report it, should be reported to the authorities. So.
But anyway, so
the thing is, okay. I don't think they will. I think that.
Amelia writes, Carl really seems to like Kevin and wants him to like him back. Yeah, Carl, we all know Carl is in love with Kevin. He really wants to be accepted by Kevin. For some reason, he finds it, I think, very validating to have somebody in the left that he can agree with. And I think maybe it's because he knows he's such an awful person. And this is why, Kevin kind of plays, I guess, maybe good cop. And Carl's too afraid of me to let me play the bad cop and pull him up on his crap. But Carly is desperate to be liked because he wants to be both a racist and a fascist and say all the things the racist and fascist, pro-fascist things he's saying, and then still claim to be like a good person because he's liked by people on the left. He does want the D. Yeah, he's got a huge crush on Kevin. He can't quit you. He can't quit you, Kevin.
That Epstein's connections are so embedded in the sort of elite of the United States that I think he'll get a slap on the wrist, effectively.
Wow, you're just, again, wrong. You don't, Carl, you don't understand what happened since Me Too. And that Epstein is now in jail again because of the movement of Me Too. Because he was arrested last time pre-Me Too, and that's where he got his sweetheart deal. And the Miami Herald kept on this, and there are people who are outraged enough about it to keep on it, and victims feel braver or feel more safe to come forward now because of Me Too. Because the environment is completely changed from the last time. So your understanding of politics is completely off, Carl. You don't understand the American mood. You don't understand American political history. And you don't even understand like the current political situations. Like why go back is such a racist term. You really, every time you open your mouth, anyone who believes you, you are making them as dumb as you are. Please stop. Please stop. Just read.
Well, I would hope.
You can't hear the video?
But okay. Yeah, I don't suspect that the justice system is anything like a justice system.
I think it's more the number of famous check. And powerful people
to me it's in the yellow, so let me know if you can hear
it. It would be cataclysmic if everything came out. I think it's really bad.
Okay, if it's too quiet, I will turn it up. Thank you guys for giving me the feedback. So what I'll do is I'll turn it up here. in the system. That should make it much louder here. So I'll go closer to the red. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of powerful people sweating on what he might be telling the police. There's definitely no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, in many respects, it might actually do Trump some favours if he does go down. Because if he doesn't, there's always like that suspect thing of, well, were strings pulled at the highest level to cover things up? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, actually. I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah. But on a lighter note, why are you scared of Christy Winters?
I can't say that I am. It's just that she's not really interested in having a conversation like we're having.
Oh, no, Carl. I'm definitely interested in having this conversation. Because I, as you can tell, have a lot of things to say and to call your bull out. I can't decide if I want this monetized or not, whether or not I should should swear or not. But okay, thank you, Kevin. Thank you for asking him that. That was perfect. Because he is avoiding me. And he knows that, you won't do the kind of Google checks. I will. You know your stuff. Like some of the stuff that you were mentioning, I didn't know. And so you're on your game. But clearly, I am far more focused, determined to pin him down on things and to call him out on things. And he's just scared of me. Hashtag Carl's too scared of Christy.
I don't think that's true. I think she's. We've done some sort of, when you popped on before, some sort of IBS type streams.
It wasn't even IBS. We weren't fighting. We were just holding him to account. That's not IBS, Kevin. Sorry. That's just not letting him slide away from his statements, in my opinion. And he's not used to that.
But then, to be fair, you came in trying to be antagonistic, really.
And let's also point out that I was actually polite to Carl, and it was Kevin who was insulting him the most. Kevin was the one, calling him, out most to his face in terms of just, broad jokes and being a bit aggressive and offensive. And I was quite polite. And actually, Carl and I had that really long exchange about agency and gendered attitudes. And, it became a reasonable conversation. And then Kevin kind of all right, well, let's get back to, I don't remember what, in the mood change, or there was a pause, and then we got, So Carl is complaining about me not wanting to have a conversation when it was Kevin who was rude. Is he, okay, guys, you have to decide. Is Carl sexist, too sexist to face me, or too scared to face me? Yeah, he is. He's scared of a strong woman. I don't know. What do you guys think? I have to ask Carl. Is he too much of a scaredy sexist to face me? Because, we did have a conversation and I was nice to him. Or is he scared? Or both? Yes. He doesn't like to be shown up by a woman. It's embarrassing to him. I think maybe that's part of it.
But that thing, the articles about the wedding rings
allegation. But let's talk about some
10
more.
minutes late, saying you wanted to shit in a coffee like that. Come on, that's.
Well, I'm always but I'm always late for everything. So.
Well, that's not an excuse. It's still rude. It's still rude that you're late. You don't get special treatment because you're a white man? Come on. Oh, Carl and his white privilege. Oh, I just get to be rude to people and you have to deal with it and not complain. White male entitlement right there.
Part of the course. But yeah, so I take it so there's some stuff I want to run by you, right?
Run away run away from the question. He's too scared to even answer the question. Why you won't be on here with me. Carl. See, this is why I wanted to watch this live. You big man baby. You big man baby. Oh, you're too scared. You're too scared to even answer the question. Wow. Victory! Victory! Feminist defeats Sargon. And I didn't even have to show up. Just my name is enough to send him scurrying away into the darkness. Okay. All right. I'm over this now. I'll probably keep giggling a little bit, but all right, I'll hit play.
You know, let's not get away from it. Why don't you want to talk to Christy? This is
Oh, thank you,
outrageous.
Carl.
Because
Thank you,
I
Kevin.
think she wants a
Come on.
conversation.
We wanted to have a discussion about the election.
I've said I don't think she wants to have a conversation. She seems to do everything she can to obstruct a conversation from happening.
Like fact checking, like calling you out on your ignorance.
It's kind of sad.
She went and she did a debate with you.
Yeah, but that's not the same. That's what I'm talking about.
What? That's what.
Oh, Kevin's reaction is priceless. What? Yeah, that was my reaction too, mate. You're like the totally genuine befuddlement that comes across in that. What? I have to go back. Can you do the reverse like 10 seconds? I know you can do it on my phone.
Hang on, she didn't interrupt you, did she?
No, I can't. Oh, it just goes to full screen.
Okay, how about this? I'm just terrified of Christy Winters.
Yeah, we know.
Well, I think you're certainly uneasy.
Yeah.
You don't like being verbally slapped around by a woman, do
you? Calm down.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry, I'm gonna have to go back anyway. I missed what Kevin says because I was trying to hear what Carl was gonna say. So, I thought Carl was saying that people on the left won't talk to him and won't have conversations. And here we are, like, I'm willing to have a conversation. One of the feminists that he likes to go out, and he's just running away. All right, let's get back.
I've said I don't think she wants to have a conversation. She seems to do everything she can to obstruct a conversation from happening. It's kind of sad.
She went and she did a debate with you.
Yeah, but that's not the same. That's what I'm talking about.
What? Hang on, she didn't interrupt you, did she? She allowed you.
Okay, how about this? I'm just terrified of Christy Winters, Kevin.
Sorry about this. I want to make that my ringtone. I want to loop that on some sort of like hip hop beat. He just admits it in order to sort of like, move on and then try to dodge and weave. He admits the truth in a snarky tone, as if he's being sarcastic. It's his tell. When he gets that tone, it means he's actually saying something true. He just doesn't want to admit it. And he's being sort of snitty about it, so he can be dismissive of it. Oh, Carl.
Well, I think you're certainly uneasy. You don't like being verbally slapped around by a woman, do you?
Verbally slapped around by a woman. That's what you said. Okay, I missed that the first time. Yeah, like fact checked and called out, and yeah, just asked to make his own comments make internal coherent sense.
Calm down.
Well, that's what happened in the debate, wasn't it? It's what happened when you came on both times. When you brought your, advice letter, like your Dear Abby letter, and you wanted to present that as anything. Oh, you're so poor in your form. Poor form, Carl.
I didn't want to turn this into a bit of a seedy stream, but
exactly. Don't bring your Swindon fucking talk into it. This is outrageous, isn't it?
My good sir, you besmirched the good name of the massage parlors in Swindon.
All of them?
Anyway,
we were just talking about the one.
Things you want to run by.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about this. So, is there any point in your mind that mass immigration becomes a negative?
All right. How long have I been going now? Almost an hour. I mean, all right. I don't know if I can. Okay, that was a lot. I'm starting to think maybe I can do this in a couple parts. What do you guys in the chat say? You want me to keep going? I did promise somebody a phone call at 4 or 2 o'clock, but I'm getting a little bit tired. Okay, I'll go on for a little bit longer. I just dread to hear just more stupidity out of Carl's mouth, but this time on some sort of extreme of open borders, endless immigration, and then Kevin trying to navigate any kind of reasonable amount of human movement across territory, and Carl objecting to it, because this is what he does. He asks you a question, and then whatever answer you get, he tries to misrepresent or push you in a corner to seem more extreme than you are. And this is the stuff I wouldn't let him get away with, because I would be asking him questions more aggressively and trying to keep him focused and ask him. I also ask for better questions, not these open-ended, ridiculous ones, like name a specific policy or something. But anyway,
Of course there are. Yeah, I mean, anything done to an extreme is bad, isn't it?
Well, I agree. I think it's a fair point. But what position is it? That you think that
oh,
mass
pick a
immigration goes too
random
far?
line and then I'll object to it.
I really don't know. I mean, I mean, this is going to sound like it's I don't know, muddy in the waters or whatever, but really it does depend on the nation
Yeah,
that
it
we're
does.
talking about individually, its needs, its cultural background, what link.
The idea that Kevin or even Carl would know enough about immigration flow, patterns, visas, the number of student visas there are, the number of worker visas are, the number of like guest worker visas there are, moving in and out of a country in terms of people who are emigrating out of the country, people who are applying for citizenship. These are random opinions. I don't, you can have an opinion, but Carl wants to speak on this as if, well, he was attack the people on the left for whatever position they take as being unreasonable.
It has to what nations and all that. So it sort of depends from nation to nation. And I'm not entirely sure that the idea of the nation state will last that much longer anyway. So I don't, in terms of immigration, in the respect of having like harsh borders, on this side you're legal, on that side you're not legal, I don't think it's going to matter in 50 to 100 years.
Really? Because I actually think it's going to go the complete opposite way. I think the nation state's going to become
of course it does, because you're a fascist.
Hold to very, very dearly.
Yeah, because you're a fascist.
I think a lot of people will hold to it very dearly. I just don't think that in a practical sense it will actually matter. In the same way that the line on the map between Syria and Iraq disappeared in
I think Carl means more than just in terms of immigration. I think he means in terms of cultural identity and belonging. And, when it's time for Britons to start fleeing the UK because of rising sea waters or the climate is changing, we'll see what his opinion is on open borders then in 50 years' time.
Actuality, I think that will happen, hopefully more peacefully than it did there, but I think that will basically happen.
That's the problem, isn't it? It seems to turn into an absolute catastrophe when that happens.
What are you talking about?
Well, true, but that's because post the existence of nation states, we don't know how to deal with the idea of frontiers rather than borders, and that's.
I mean, I don't personally understand what time period Carl had in mind there, or how it was a disaster. I mean, if you look at the westward expansion into western U.S., wasn't that just open borders there, and also down through Mexico until the Mexican-American War?
Because the idea of the border, the hard border on a map, the harsh line on a map, is a very modern concept.
Yeah,
really.
Kevin's got a point
it's
there.
only since the nation state of the last 300, 400 years.
I don't think that's true, actually.
That is entirely true. Does Carl not understand European history? I mean, how many people, like, for instance, the whole point of Henry V's campaign into France was that he had a claim on the French throne. People would have property across nations, like, Anjou and all the other places, Normandy and all of the French holdings and the territories going back and forth. And yeah, you started to get more of that closing off with, let's say, like the union of Britain and England and Scotland into Great Britain, but that's like 1700s. So no, like land and properties and belonging, based on inheritance and marriage, were very flexible throughout European history. Holy cow, Carl! I'm an American and I know that. So how is it that I know your European history better than you do if you're a civic nationalist? Dude, come on.
I think there are lots of examples through history where harsh borders have been patrolled with great regularity and firmness.
Yeah, okay. I bet he couldn't name 5 of them. Or if he did, they would all actually be in the modern period. He just doesn't know what the modern period means.
I can name a bunch of natural.
Yeah,
please do. And things like rivers, for instance, which obviously is a harsh line on a map. But in terms of the idea of having an entirely self-encompassed piece of land that is absolutely one thing and nothing else, and that contains, like, you're a citizen if you're inside it, and you're not if you're outside it. Is
well, the Roman Empire had that.
What is he talking about?
No, the Romans had frontiers.
No, not at all. That's not true.
Harsh
They absolutely did have harsh borders.
No, they didn't.
Hadrian built gigantic
What they had intake? You had a wall. They could take a boat around and land farther south. God, oh my gosh, this guy is such a history fail.
Gigantic walls all across the north of the Roman Empire.
No, they didn't. No.
Well, yeah, but they were.
What gigantic? Other than Hadrian's Wall, seriously, what other massive Roman walls were built? There were aqueducts. There were roads. Romans built roads all over territory that they oversaw, but they weren't. People inside those weren't Roman citizens. There were Roman citizens in them, but they weren't defending their citizens. They were defending their territory. Carl, oh my God, you're so ignorant. Stop talking.
In the same way that Hadrian's Wall in
he knows one wall.
A matter of collecting taxes rather than keeping people out, because those walls aren't very big.
No, they were genuinely.
People still came back and forward. There was still trade.
It's not the Great Wall of China.
That's the thing. I'm not saying that there's no traffic across them, but the point is it's managed, right?
No, but that's not the same.
That's entirely.
That is not the same as what we do all along our borders today with paperwork and passports and travel permits. It's completely. You can't even compare these. The Antonine Wall. Okay, so Mithril's writing up. I'll see what that is. But you're talking about, like, when I'm thinking about he's talking about a wall you're defending, I could think of the Great Wall of China. But not like, a wall, of course, of like actually delineating all of the Roman territory, because it kept expanding and then reducing and changing hands and being rerun. So it means you build a wall and then you'd have to go and like fight your own wall if somebody took it over. So the Antonine Wall. Okay, see what that is. Wait, in Scotland? No, well, okay. Where is it? Frontiers of the Roman Empire. Right, but that's not in Gaul. That wasn't, like in Northern Africa. They weren't building walls down in parts of Egypt when they were holding it, or around, around Carthage. So it's in Scotland. Yeah, I still don't think. Well, I mean, thank you for that. That's really cool. That's another wall, and I love archaeology, and I love these sort of ruins and their preservation and our understanding and excavation of them. I think we should preserve them because they're part of human history. But I don't think that qualifies as the kind of analogous border control setup in order to protect territory linked to citizenship for all people on the other side of the wall. So.
The point to prevent raids and prevent all that sort of thing. And it was the same with the Germans. So it's like I don't think
same
the
with the
concept of hard
Germans
borders is new,
what
and that
Germans?
doesn't mean that nothing crosses.
Wait. What Germans? Because Germany, as we know it, didn't start. I mean, when did Germany? Well, I can't spell. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, not 19. The reunited one. Obviously, but 1871. The German Empire was founded in 1871. Right. So that's the. What are you talking about, Germans, Carl? Do you mean like the Gauls or whatever? The tribes. Sorry, I don't know the Gauls and the Franks, the Visigoths and the Goths. Did I say the Goths? Anyway. I'm not so good at Roman history, but I know more than Carl does. So yeah, 19th century. So what do you, again, modern era?
It's done in an orderly way, but I don't think the nation state's done for. But like getting back to the immigration thing, I'm really curious about this.
Yeah,
so
you want to gotcha question.
Because in the next couple of years, we're going to have a census done, right?
Right.
Because all of the data that people are using is based on the 2011 census, and 10 years is a long time, especially when you're letting in hundreds of thousands of people a year.
No, 10 years is exactly the amount of time that it takes between censuses. Censuses? What do you call a plural of a census? They're done at regular intervals in order to be a time series. You numpty. 10 years is a long time for that to be going on. Yeah, and people have been leaving the country, true. There's been a lot of people coming in, going out. Yeah, but 10 years is the usual amount of time, Carl. So, and you're going to see changes in population. Yeah, but sorry, I don't know if he was saying 10 years is a long time because we're going to see such differences, because you won't. It's still majority, vastly, overwhelmingly white country, Carl. And the hundreds of, we're probably going to see maybe a switch of a few percentage points. It'd be interesting to see what the census data are. But let's see what his objection is.
I think that the new census is going to reveal quite a shift in the demographics of the country.
I wonder what Carl would say statistically would represent a dramatic shift. How many percentage points in terms of shifts of growth would be dramatic for him?
I think it's going to get quite a few people upset.
Well, racists are always going to get upset at things that show them that their country is not as racist as they want them to be, but that's neither here nor there.
And so I think that
yeah, I think that's probably true. Actually, I think that it will. They're expecting, I think it's Leicester and one or two other places to have gone 50% non-white British, which I think will upset some people. I mean, I don't really care that they're upset, but that doesn't change the fact that they are upset.
Right. So that doesn't upset you?
Not in the
Why
slightest.
would it?
I don't give a fuck.
Is there
If
any
they're British
percentage where it's non-British?
Whoa! Non-white doesn't mean non-British, Carl. Wow. Hello, racist. Hello, racist. There you are, coming out. Now we see you, Carl.
That bothers you?
Well, no, because it's white non-British is the point.
Oh, okay, like the native English, Scottish, Welsh, and Northern Irish.
Oh yeah. So more racism. What you think you have to have a certain skin color to be British? Just being born in Britain, second, third, fourth generation. What? If someone comes over and becomes a British citizen, but they're white, they're more British than somebody who's has multiple generations going back, and speak with a Cockney accent. Wow, you're racist, Carl.
And the concept of native is a ridiculous notion in Britain.
Yeah, it's a citizenship issue.
How far can you go back with your family tree exactly?
Personally, not very, because I don't care about that very much.
But wait, doesn't Carl say that his grandfather came from some island? Yeah, exactly. So he's not native in that way. Again, you're so racist, Carl.
There's
exactly. But the point being is that we're a nation of weird amalgamations of waves of people from generally Europe, but from elsewhere as well.
Sure, but that doesn't
the fact
change
that the fact that they're not white and British or whatever is, I don't really give a fuck. I mean, I think it's a point worth making. Like the England cricket team just won the World Cup. That was fucking awesome, and it was a team of immigrants. And that's fine. I don't give a fuck. It's brilliant.
So would you say it's English in name only?
No.
What? Oh my gosh. I can't believe he's just openly linking skin color. If you're not somehow linked to... that your citizenship isn't enough for Carl. Your citizenship, being British, isn't enough for him. And yeah, Anglo-Saxons are immigrants. They're Angles and Saxons. The Normans are immigrants. The Romans were immigrants. Everything that's come to Britain to make it has been come from immigration. But he's really linking here whiteness to authentic Britishness. You can't be authentically British unless you're white. So he's not a civic nationalist. He's a white nationalist. Carl here is revealing he is actually a white, ethnically English, Scottish, Irish, even though Irish, of course, isn't part of the island. But I think he would, and Welsh. White Britons. So he's not a civic nationalist, just to repeat. He's a white nationalist.
I mean,
they're not English, are they?
Well, some of them actually were born here as well. But why
Do
not?
they identify as English? This is the thing. This is the thing.
Well,
I think
they're
it's
happy
important
to
to talk
put on
about.
the shirt that says England on it. So
but
presumably,
if I'm being paid, I'll happily put on a shirt.
Oh, right. And so even if you are there and say you're English, your motives are questionable if you're not white. Wow. All right. I see why he hangs out with the alt. I mean, Carl, you can't say that you're not on the side of the alt-right. If anything, you're a more openly white supremacist than Richard Spencer is right now. This is ridiculous. You are linking again and again whiteness with authenticity and legitimacy to be considered British.
Well, no, but they could play for other teams. The point is they've chosen to play for England. And actually, I say they've chosen to play for, like, people like Ben Stokes was born in New Zealand, but grew up here, so he's he very much sees himself as English because he grew up here. He
Right,
just was
okay,
born
yeah.
not in New Zealand. So
Yeah.
like
Oh.
that's but again that's fine because just because you were born in New Zealand doesn't mean that if you lived here since you were like 4 or something,
Yeah,
that's an
you
English
probably
person.
identify as English, right?
Yeah.
This is how I feel about like the Windrush types, where they've come over and their children have been born here, and regardless of the fact they're black, they still think of themselves as English, and they think like English people.
Wait. Regardless of the fact, why do we have to disregard that fact? Like it's sort of no. They're here. They think of themselves as English. Their blackness is not something that has to be discounted. As we will put that to the side just to legitimize them. You racist! You fucking racist!
Right.
Right.
But it wouldn't bother you if there were literally towns in this country that just weren't English towns.
You mean white
the people
towns?
in them didn't identify as English. They didn't think like English people.
Oh my god! Okay, thought police. You have to think like an English person. What does that mean, Carl? You have to think like you? You have to think like right-wing conservative, racist white guys in order to be considered English? Oh, this is why Carl fears me. He would never be able to. He would never say this to me. He'd never say this, and because I would be down his throat in an instant. I'm not saying, Kevin. I know you guys have your own style, your own interactions, but this is why he won't. He runs from me.
Would that bother you at all?
Well, that's the thing. Identifying.
Yeah.
That's a different matter to being, if that makes sense.
Sure, but let's take identifying.
I wouldn't want a town where people didn't think of themselves. Well, I don't even necessarily say English because the fact that the regionality is slightly annoying. I'll go with British. Let's stick with British.
Well, let's just talk about England then, because we've had the majority of the immigration. So
this is getting frustrating, but okay, let's go.
Let's just talk.
Okay. But we've got the majority of the population in the towns and all that, so that would just make sense. Yeah, okay. We'll just say Englishness then. But I want the caveat to be known that I don't think of myself necessarily as English first, rather than British first, if that makes sense. Anyway.
Yeah, but you would identify as an Englishman, wouldn't you?
Well, I'm from England, yeah.
No, but that's not what Carl means.
That's a really interesting point, right? Because I'm not sure that just being from England is what makes an Englishman.
Exactly. Comes down to race. And this comes down to race. He wants to define Englishmen as being like Agatha Christie, 1920s, class stratification, racial discrimination, open misogyny, but yet considered polite and respectable. That is Carl's Englishman. Oh, okay. Data port doll is telling me I have to go to a certain time point. Well, I might have to take a little bit of a break. It would actually be quite a bit of a break if you guys wanted me to continue on through this. And I see the person who I was going to have the phone call with, if you don't mind putting this call off. But, okay, I'll hit play and stop having a moan, and we'll see how much farther we get.
I think an Englishman is actually a set of cultural signifiers. It's a social
like white.
construct, right?
Yeah, whiteness, an Oxford Plummy accent, whiteness, adherence to class stratification, whiteness, maleness, straightness, cisness. All of these things are what Carl thinks of when he says an Englishman.
Right.
Okay, so outline your terms then. What do you see as Englishness?
Well, I think there's a certain kind of view of the world, sort of the English view of the world.
The white
that every
upper
foreigner
class
can see it and knows it when they see it, right?
Okay, all right. This is going to be rough. All right, hold this. See if you can last, Christy.
And like the Scots would be very. I don't think many Scottish people identify Sadiq Khan as English.
Oh, damn! You're racist, Carl. You are so racist. It's shocking. This is shocking to me. This is absolutely shocking. All right, hitting play. So it's brownness coupled with not wanting to preserve the kind of white patriarchal power structures that have defined empire and colonialism and all the exploitation that has gone before. That's Englishness. That's an Englishman to him. It gets worse. Oh, thanks, Nick. Or Milk? I can't see. The font is very small.
Why? What would that
Because
be?
I think that Sadiq Khan doesn't conduct himself like a John Cleese, you know?
Oh God. So if men of color don't mimic and play at being white men, which they will never be because they're not white men, but they have to try to play at that and always fail and be obviously not white men in order to conform with that white man's proper person in charge of things. And then you can be considered English, but not really. I'm physically getting ill at this point.
Okay. Like there's a certain kind of
Why he doesn't make weird racist statements?
Well, and actually Cog in the chat makes a good point, is that the Scots are largely left-wing. So, well, they would definitely identify Khan as English in terms of like the northern-southern thing. Right? You know, because, yeah, I would say they could. I would also agree with Cog. They would totally see him as English. Just not the way Carl does, because Carl's Englishman is bound up with racism, classism, sexism, all the other kind of bigotryisms, transphobia, that kind of stuff.
What did John Cleese say that was racist?
I think you know exactly what
Yeah,
he said anyway.
of course
So
he did.
why
He's
wouldn't
being
the people of
disingenuous.
Scotland-
Oh,
Why wouldn't the people of
yeah.
Scotland think that Sadiq Khan, the man born in London and it was elected by the people of London, is not an Englishman?
Well, he doesn't identify as English to start with. He identifies as European, which I think is interesting.
Okay, well, so I mean, it doesn't change the fact that he is in England, and therefore geographically, an Englishman.
Londoner, but not an Englishman. I think that's really interesting.
Carl really understands the minds of millions and millions of Scots on very subtle linguistical differences. Oh, Carl and his mind reading skills. Really ridiculous. Just really think about the things that Carl thinks that he knows that other people think. And generally, it always happens to coincide with his worldview. He's such a fraud and a con man.
It's also pandering to his base. I think that's pandering to his base, isn't it?
I don't know.
You know, his base is like a urban, cosmopolitan, pro-European group, largely.
People who also
so he's saying,
identify
I'm
as
European.
English.
Who didn't?
Well, his base, whoever you're talking about, are these people also not people who identify as English?
You can.
No, I would imagine most of them probably do. I mean, like I say, there's the majority of the people, the people who voted in London. I don't know if that amounts to 50%, but you know what I mean. Like he won.
I mean, can we just say, who cares what the Scots might or might not think?
Yeah, in the 2011 census,
Khan.
London was the only place in Britain that didn't identify as English.
Well,
well, that's fine. I mean, in a sense, it's
makes sense.
Slightly into weird territory.
It's a massively cosmopolitan.
That makes sense because I mean, obviously, it's the capital of both Britain and England.
Yeah,
but it's essentially its own country.
Well, yes.
Like I don't see London as.
You know, there's a lot of people who work in the city, the financial sector, who live in London. I don't think it was people in Dagenham voting, saying that they felt European. I think it's more the people who have offices all over Europe and have to travel there, perhaps, in London, or people who are in London working for other companies, bringing in income and employment into the country. Carl?
Well, no, it's not even just now. I think it's always been that way. I think London has been a place unto itself for generations.
It's definitely been a place apart, but I think it's never been non-English.
It's the economic, political, cultural, media hub. It's a completely separate entity.
Yeah, but I think in generations past, they definitely would have said they're English.
Well, who cares?
Well, very possibly.
We're not living in Dickensian times. We're not even living in the 1960s. We're living in the times now. So who cares what they would have said in the past? It is literally irrelevant to the future. Unless, of course, you're threatened by the idea of people having a more expansive notion of identity that isn't based in the narrow, cisgendered, racially white, upper class, conservative Christian notion that Carl does.
But I think there was, in the past, there was like a kind of, I don't know, colonial grandeur, if that makes sense, of like
based on exploitation.
the English, the British, whatever, thinking of themselves as something higher than somewhere else,
Yeah,
and so
based on
there's
exploitation.
unity through that, if that makes sense.
Based on
in a way that
exploitation.
doesn't exist now, but I think that's the only real substantive difference, because you can go from places like down in the southwest up to Newcastle, and they're all much of a muchness in terms of general attitudes, if that makes sense. But you can go to London; it's a completely different place. Like it might as well be a different country.
I think so. And in
But you see,
2011, it was
Carl says that as a bad thing, as opposed to saying here is a part of our country which is so cosmopolitan that it's sort of a unique experience in terms of the bringing together of people and influences and cultures and art and politics and business and finance and sports, and it is sort of the synthesis of all the things that are great and possible in Britain. And it is not just inward looking, it looks out to the world, and the world looks to London. And that's why it's like the Paris of the 1930s or the 1860s. No, that's how Kevin, I think, thinks about it. And Carl's like, yes, London is a different country because there's so many brown people in it. I think maybe that's where this might, I'm going to predict perhaps a slight disconnect between the two conversations.
What, 42% English?
Yeah, see?
I think there's going to be a lot less.
I don't really even care about that, about the demographics or anything. It's like, that's not, like, people get too hung up on like, the colour of the people. I don't give a fuck.
Well,
like,
I agree. I don't care about the colour.
No. He was just talking about people who were quote unquote native English and native Scots and native Welsh. And what he meant by that was white. So he does get hung up on the color.
What, 25% or something, or 20% are Muslims? It doesn't make any difference. It's perfectly lovely here. It's fine.
Yeah,
people
I
are people.
It is nice in Birmingham, but I find it interesting how there seems to be a cultural.
So, okay, just by the way, like Trump has his tells, Carl has his tells. And when he says, I find it really interesting, he's about to say something really awful or racist or just ridiculous. I'm noticing this pattern of his linguistic tropes. I find it very interesting.
Rejection of Englishness.
Oh yes, I find it very interesting that you reject my notion, my sexist, racist, classist, phobic notion of Englishness, because that makes you not English. It wants to. This is what Trump is trying to do as well. Carl is doing the same sort of white supremacy that Trump is doing, which is these, arrogant, self-involved, undereducated, overconfident white guys want to claim that they get to define for everybody else who and who isn't truly American or truly English or truly British or whatever it is. And when they mean who is a real American or a real English person, a real Englishman, they mean racist like them. Basically. They don't see the room for another way of being American, another way of being English. If you're third generation English and your parents came from, the Dominican islands in the Caribbean, you're not Caribbean. You're English. You're British. Your family was raised in the English education system, worked there, lived there, watched all the television, became part of the culture, interacted with people, made the community part of their lives, and became part of the community. It's based on citizenship, not culture and race. And this is something, if Carl wants to talk about civic nationalism, then he has to base it on citizenship. And then that's a plurality of notions of what citizenship can be, as opposed to something like whether or not your skin is white enough for Carl.
And I don't like that very much.
Okay, but you still haven't really even defined what you see as Englishness. Look, it's quite vague.
Yeah, it is. It is quite vague. It's a certain set of cultural signifiers based on a kind of inherent liberal worldview that.
So it's value-based? Based on a liberal worldview? Okay, of course. I'm just going to let Carl talk because he's going to babble now here, probably with very meaningless words that he thinks make sense.
Manifest themselves in certain predictable ways.
So you have to hold values, liberal values according to what he defines as liberal, and your holding of those liberal values also have to produce certain attitudes that he can predict. In other words, you have to conform. No freedom of thought. You have to conform to a certain set of predefined values based on attitudes based on prior liberal values. Okay. Such as.
And again, these things, I haven't got like a study in front of me to list them all or anything like that.
Well, how about a couple?
I think we can agree that, say, John Cleese is an Englishman, and
so he has no John Cleese is not a predictable outcome of holding a series of liberal values. He's a white guy with an accent. Oh, Carl, you're so scummy. You're just scum.
No, he lives in Barbados. So does he see himself as English? Because last time I checked, that was very close to England.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because I don't think that the place that you live in currently necessarily defines what you are.
No,
what?
It doesn't. But I think it hints at the idea that you don't see yourself as part of us anymore. He could live in Britain. He could live in a very nice, leafy suburb somewhere, or in the
he undoubtedly did,
or in the Highlands of Scotland if he wanted to. He's chosen to live 4,000 miles away.
Yeah, but what difference does that make?
So he can be an Englishman abroad and be more authentically English, even though he's not actually residing there or participating in English culture, in British culture. But someone who is there and identifies as English cannot be English because you decide that they're not Englishmen enough. Ugh. It's just so racist.
Because it shows that he doesn't see himself as part of us.
Yeah.
Well,
right, Kevin.
He doesn't have to. Therefore, to put him down as like the archetype of Englishness when he doesn't live anywhere near fucking England is a bit ridiculous.
Why? I don't see what the difference is, because.
But he's white, Kevin.
The term English is a social construct. We're talking about a set of attitudes, mores, opinions.
Those are also social constructs,
right?
Those are also social constructs.
These can be manifested anywhere you are in the world, and foreigners notice what they are, what you are. Like, they'll know that you're an Englishman when they see you.
Because you're white and you have a certain accent. That's really what Carl comes down to. The only things that you can observe about John Cleese that he's talking about are his whiteness and his maleness and his accent. It has nothing to do with his attitudes or his views. Because if people met John Cleese, they would have no idea what they would be, but they would get he comes from England from his accent. So really, he's just talking about racism and that men are the sort of ideal of Englishness. Women, there's he's not talking about a woman here as an example. It's coming to a male body, a cis male body, of course.
Because the way you sound and act. Sorry?
On that basis, then, let's just choose one at random. Nigeria. Say a random guy from Nigeria has all the archetypal English values that you like. Would you then just let him in?
Depends. I mean, is he just he wants to immigrate because he thinks it's a good country or what?
Oh, now he's got to do a test. Yeah, he's an Englishman.
You define that's what Englishness is. So that he's allowed in then.
Well, I don't think it's just the values. I don't think it's just the values.
I know, because you think it's the whiteness too. Fat sack of shit.
I think it's also customs.
Skin color?
No, I don't think it's skin color.
Yeah, you do.
Behavior.
Behavior. Oh, it's behaviors, right? Oh, okay. And white Englishmen like you, Carl, the guy who's known as a pariah in your own country for being the rape tweet guy, who's currently under police investigation for criminal, malicious communications. You and your buddy Tommy Robinson, who's in jail, you guys are Englishmen? Oh, you are such a racist. He's going to, of course, deny the race thing, or the skin color thing. But he's going to talk around it and mean it.
Sorry? Size of penis? Well, fucking
size of penis.
Yeah. No, like behavior. I think that's an important part.
He's so uncivilized. People who aren't Englishmen are uncivilized, according to Carl.
So you say Nigerians can't behave themselves?
I keep anticipating Kevin. You and me, mate, we've got like the same ideas. I didn't realize how many times that I would react to Carl and then Kevin would basically make the exact same point. It just shows you where we are, mate. We're right there together.
You're
didn't say
outrageous.
that. No, I didn't say that. And I think that I don't think that someone born and raised in another culture can reasonably claim to not be part of that culture, right?
I don't. Where is he even going with this? That you can't move and bring your other cultures with you? You can't move and live in a different culture and learn to adapt in it?
Well, no, it's not a matter of him not being a part of the culture, because, like you say, yeah, he's born and raised here, and obviously he contributed enormously to the culture himself.
Who are we
well.
talking about here? Sorry,
John Cleese.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, and I think that the culture you're born into and raised in, you don't necessarily have to be born into it. Even just if you are raised in a certain culture, you will end up reflecting that culture, right?
So that means everyone born and raised in Britain are British, Carl. So there's not an authentic British English, like you tried to argue earlier.
I mean, it's be crazy if that wasn't the case. And so someone born and raised in Nigeria is going to be a Nigerian, and there's going to be certain cultural habits and customs and values that he's going to believe in. And
but they're just attitudes that can be changed or altered, or even in the culture. He wants to treat culture like a fixed property? Is this where he's going with this?
And I'm not saying this is good or bad either. I just think that there is going to be a thing called Nigerian culture, and people who are born and raised in it are going to reflect that. They're going to, it's going to inculcate into them whether they like it or whether they. Nobody even thinks about this. You just act like the people around you act.
Well, maybe Carl is that thoughtless, but other people are self-reflective and choose, this is parts of the culture I agree with, this is parts of the culture I don't agree with, here's another culture that has things I like and or not like. Is he talking like a 4-year-old? I hate to insult 4-year-olds, but his worldview is just so, one, wrong, empirically, and he's acting as if culture is like an essential feature of who you are, as if culture is even a one single thing in a country. He's really so doesn't know what he's talking about. He really does make people dumber if they think about this and think he has a point.
Because that's how you form sort of trustworthy communities, right?
Yeah. As Data Portdal mentions here in the chat, as a gay person raised in straight culture, Carl, you're full of shit. Yeah, he is. Because he's never taken a class in this stuff. He literally just spouts whatever ignorance is at the front of his brain. He's just making people dumber. He's making people less, he's giving them just dumber ideas, stupider ideas, less well-informed things in their brains than when they started listening to him.
Right? You know what to expect from the people around you because you can predict the way they respond to things and the way they do things. And that's what a culture is. That's how they succeed as well.
What?
And so
you don't even understand.
I think that there is something we can call English culture, and foreigners know it when they see it. So
can I just say, as someone who's actually lived and traveled as an outsider, there are many English cultures. How people behave in different parts of the country, there are slight differences or different traditions or different ways of going about things or things that you're called. So there isn't a unified, static English culture, Carl. There's local idioms and local phrases and local festivals, and everything else is very heterogeneous. So you're just off. It's just off.
Even if we don't understand it necessarily, because we're like, the fish swimming in the water that doesn't even have a word for water or whatever, it is still a thing, and we should really pay attention to that, shouldn't we?
Well, I've got no problem with paying attention to it, but you were asking me whether I have a problem with people identifying with it as being English or not.
No.
Now, in a general sense, I want people to identify with the place they're from, yes.
Yeah.
But as you're not really able to define what it is you think Englishness is, I don't know whether I can be for or against people identifying as that, because it could include things I don't like.
Oh, generally quite liberal values, but with a strong sense of personal responsibility, good humor.
See, he couldn't name them before, and then when he does name them, they're just basically, they don't characterize Englishness at all. They're just some characteristics that he thinks of when he thinks of John Cleese and other white men who, who've run power and colonialism and all the exploitation that went with that. That's his idea. So if you're not like those white men, straight, cis, white guys, and Christian, too. Slightly Christian helps. Then you're not really English.
Stiff upper lip, good wit. The sort of
Yeah,
thing.
he's basically saying Dick Van Dyke would be a proper Englishman. Good point. Yeah.
You
Kind of
see yourself?
stereotypically English, actually.
Do you
Oh,
see
yeah.
good wit in yourself, Carl?
Every now and again, I have my moments.
Okay, interesting.
You do.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
with those list of characteristics, yeah, I'd like to think people generally fall within that and would identify with those things. But whether they see those things as inherently English in the way you do, I'm not sure.
I think a lot of foreigners do.
Again, Carl wants to convince us that he can read minds, and he can't. Can you just point this out, Carl? You're full of crap. You don't know what foreigners, literally billions of people around the world, think. Might be that they, look at your sporting teams and look at that and go, oh, that's the English. More so than your. I was going to do an insult, but you and your appropriated Assyrian symbol that isn't even like English at all. It's not even British. And that's you're identifying with someone who's not even English or British. So how British are you, mate, when they perceive you?
I'm actually quite sure they do. I've been doing a lot of reading about what foreigners think about the English recently.
Oh, and, I'm sure he's got it from Stefan Molyneux, and who else would we have? Oh, maybe Stephen Crowder, maybe some Alex Jones.
We're not talking about foreigners, are we? We're talking about people living in Britain.
Well, yeah, but I think that the people who can tell us most about ourselves are people who don't come from here.
Of course, what Carl is leaving out is that most of the peoples who are outside, let's say, most people have not come to the UK, and so their impression of British culture comes through media. And what dominates in the media when it comes to British films? White men. 007. I guess that's probably the most iconic British series, but that's all of the bad guys with British accents. So the media is presenting basically, because of patriarchy and because of whiteness, white men in cinema around the world, it makes a lot of sense that that's what people are reacting to. They're not actually reacting to Englishness, they're reacting to their recollection of Hollywood's portrayal of Englishness. Carl, you're not smart. You're really not smart. You need to think harder about these things.
Because they notice the irregularities, the incongruities between here and their own cultures.
What? Yeah, this sounds like some really racist stuff. Depends on how he's using incongruities. If he's basically saying, ooh, look how much wealthier they are, those white people. So I need to look at what he's talking about here. They could just mean different, but, it's Carl. And also we have to remember that, what was the quote? Never trust a stupid man's report of what a clever man says, because a stupid man has to unconsciously translate everything he hears into something he can understand. So what Carl understood about what he read isn't necessarily what the author was saying. He's just putting it through his racist, misogynistic filter, anti-left filter.
And I think that what they have to say is very valuable, actually. I think it's really, really interesting.
So foreigners, as long as they reinforce white supremacist stereotypes, are very useful to listen to. But once they cross the border, like when they come in, let's say that they're as legal refugees, they want to apply for asylum because they like British culture, they want to stay and become part of it, then no. Well, what you have to say doesn't matter. Okay, how long have I been going now? Looking at my hour and 35 minutes. All right, I think I'm going to be wrapping this up because I've done my duty by you guys. I know I was gone for a long time, and I wanted to give you something to say. I'm sorry for all of my time away and being on the road. So this was it. I'm going to do another show tomorrow, by the way. I haven't set it up yet because tired, but it will be at the usual time. If I have the energy, I'll do it at the end of this one. We'll do till they kind of come to the conclusion of this, and then I'll have to wrap it up. And you guys can tell me in the chat if you want me to continue this. I can continue this on the Sunday show tomorrow because I don't have anything planned yet. So, all right, here we go. A few more minutes and then we'll wrap it up.
For example,
good point, Neil.
it's dawned on me that the English actually have this bizarre expectation of living their public lives, their private lives in public. And most places don't have that.
What?
So it makes the English kind of weird to foreigners.
Does anybody have any idea what he's talking about? I hope Kevin asks.
I don't. You've lost me there. What do you mean? They live their private life in public.
Are you talking about the? I'm sorry. You want to talk about a repressed people who don't talk about their private lives and have a real hard time coming out and admitting things? Then you want to talk about the English. I can't speak for the Scottish, but that's like a whole nation of repressed people. So if I don't know what, seriously.
For example, if you're wandering around and you see a couple having an argument, you don't go get involved, do you?
No.
Of course.
Well, unless it's like obviously getting physical or something.
Well, yeah, no. They're just having a spat. You don't get involved because you expect there is still an expectation of privacy, even if they're having a spat in public, and everyone else around looks down at that. They go, "Oh God, I can't believe that."
That's not unique to the UK, by the way. That's a lot of people, unless there's a lot of countries, unless someone is getting physical, don't want to get involved in somebody else's rows. So no, I don't know how he thinks this is exclusively English. Maybe it's because he doesn't spend a lot of time anywhere but England, and he has a really distorted idea of what other countries are like because it's all based on media, not real life.
You know, they're doing that in public. It's gauche, isn't it? It's not something you do. But
wait! I thought he said they live their lives in public. Didn't he say that? That they are too much living their lives in public? I'm confused.
It's not like that everywhere.
No, okay. Well, that's I hadn't.
What? Wait, I thought he said that the English live their lives in public. By that, does he mean that because people will occasionally have a row and other people won't intervene? Like, that's not... That's not unique to your culture, Carl.
I hadn't noticed that about foreign people. Although, to be honest, I've only ever been abroad like 4 or 5 times, so it's a small sample size or whatever.
Yeah, how long have you lived abroad?
I've been abroad quite a lot, and the amount of times people just start talking to me at random, it seems, is remarkable. And in fact, I went to Turkey, and I found it insufferable, actually. I was really annoyed at the amount...
me, Carl.
Why?
I thought you'd get on really well with brown people.
No, I did, but like, I didn't like constantly being interrupted in the street by people I didn't know for reasons that didn't really interest me.
Oh God, Carl, you're such a waste of space.
I found that very frustrating. Now I'm sure that's not like all of Turkey, but it's certainly the area of Turkey I went to, and I was just finding it just wound me up, you know. But we went.
Did you go to Istanbul?
No, I can't remember the name of the place.
Of course you can't.
You should go to Istanbul.
It was brown people land in Turkey, where everybody annoyed me because I don't like their culture, because I don't like talking to people.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I actually really want to. I just haven't had the time.
There are fucking cats everywhere.
But the same thing happens in America, though. But the thing is, there's also another aspect to America that I find really interesting, and that's nobody notices that you're there. And that's the opposite of the way things are done in England, where everyone knows you're there. They're just too polite to acknowledge you, but you know that they're there, and they know you're there. And
it's amazing how he can read minds, isn't it? Carl the mind reader. He really should just take this show on the road and tell people, like, to pay them and he'll read their minds. I mean, actually, only pay it if they're right, and he won't make any money. But maybe he'll learn that he can't read people's minds.
And there is this understanding there. There's a kind of consideration there. It seems to have been a peculiar thing to this country.
Wow. He went to Turkey and America, and he went to a place he can't remember the name of in Turkey. And he went to America, and he had a couple experiences. And based on that, he's going to say that English culture is just so unique. It's identifiable around the world. Carl, you're a fool. You're a fool. You really are a fool. You need to stop talking and start reading. Like, or listen to audiobooks, but like on more than just fiction. Not that fiction's not great, but like things that will make you smarter and take them in. All right. Okay. Let's see what Kev says here.
Okay. Well, I mean, there might be some truth to that, but obviously there's a huge difference between different parts of countries, especially a country as massive as America.
Yeah. Thanks, Kev.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm.
All right. I'm gonna let Kevin get the last word in. 59:33. If I take this up tomorrow, I'll start there. But otherwise, yeah. Thanks to you guys in the chat. Is there, before I go, if you have anything in the chat you want to say, I'll just really quick check to make sure I didn't miss any super chats, or as Dusty Smith says, super chats. I donate to Dusty myself, so I watch his show after it broadcasts, and I usually skip all the super chat stuff because I already paid for that. I want to just see Dusty talk about usually dunking on people. Well, if I missed anyone, I will check you up, but I want to thank you again for the contribution earlier. Thank you, Kevin, for your penis in my chat. Kevin and his penis in my chat. I'm definitely getting demonetized now. And I'll see you guys. Yeah, I'll set up the thing after this. It'll be noon tomorrow, because I'm going to sleep in. And that was it. Thanks for your time too, you guys. I've been Christy. Y'all have been awesome. I'll see you in like about 22 hours from now. And until then, yes, and thank you, Kevin, for his penis. We'll see you guys later. Stop streaming. That's the button I want. Okay. Bye, guys.